A very small part of me is frustrated by how well Stellar Blade is doing. Now, hear me out. Because I had just recorded a different video about something else with Stellar Blade, and then this happened. So it's like being a big fan of this franchise. I mean, it is becoming a franchise. I pushed back the other one because I want to talk about this first. Essentially, we are getting Stellar Blade 2. Now, obviously, I am not at all disappointed about that. More just like that I had to shift around or shift up my own schedule. Now, this is something interesting to me because there were a lot of people at launch and before launch who were basically preying on this game's downfall. They were saying, oh, well, this is going to suck. And this is a gooner game. Look at how they portray the woman in it and the women in it. Oh, look at this game from Asia. They have such backwards views of women. They're like every single point under the sun that someone can make, half of them being borderline racist about how Asian cultures, which are all different, by the way, not the same, portray women in their stuff. All the way down to like, oh, it's just a copy of Nier. People were really ripping on this game before launch. And on the other hand, there were a lot of people who were celebrating it and saying, yes, finally, a game that isn't afraid of a little sexuality, a game that isn't afraid of women's bodies. I love this. There were many women who felt that way as well. Like my wife, Jo, made some videos about it with me. So for me, I'm very excited, though, to see this because I think it proves a subset of people wrong. And we're going to talk about that for a few minutes today and how we know that this was actually officially confirmed. But in general, I do have a question of the day for you, which is, what do you think about Stellar Blade's success, and would you like to see more games like it? Now, I don't mean just Stellar Blade knockoffs, but I mean games that portray their characters in this way or have a similar art style, any of that kind of stuff. I'm interested to hear. But recently there was a little graph that was actually released, and it was released regarding their financial reports and what they were working on. And one of the things in here is a sequel to Stellar Blade. They've got a lot of stuff here in terms of Nike, Goddess of Victory, which I haven't played much of. My wife Jill played some of it. I want to play it. I noticed it's like very story heavy at the beginning. There was a lot of talking. Nothing wrong with that. It's just I remember downloading it when I was busy one day, and I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to actually be invested in its story, so I'm sure I will check that out soon. But with Stellar Blade, I think that that's kind of something that a lot of people noticed. Like, I think my expectations for Nike, of not knowing what to expect, not being a hater, but not knowing what to expect, I think a lot of people had that for Stellar Blade. Now, some, they were just straight up hating on it. Like I said, they were saying all these things about how, oh, the way it portrays women is awful and it's detrimental and blah, 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 blah. Not being able to separate that art from fiction. Again, we're not talking about pedophilia. We're not talking about animal, what do you call it, bestiality. We're not talking about any of that kind of stuff, right? We're talking about a game where the female character, who is pretty proper, just is able to wear revealing clothing. And this was a huge problem for a lot of people. Now, unfortunately, because of this, a lot of people have not talked about how great the gameplay was, which I genuinely think is one of the reasons for the success. If this was just a game like Dead or Alive Extreme 2, where there's not much gameplay, it's just girls in bikinis, and that was it, I don't think it would have sold nearly as well as it did. When it comes down to it, Stellar Blade succeeded, not because Eve is hot. That certainly helps. It's like icing on the cake. Not because there's great customization and amazing outfits. Again, certainly helps. But because it's a good game. Now, there are conversations about its story. A lot of people were very hard on it. I very much enjoyed the story of the game. I didn't think it was bad in any way. I thought it was great. So to see this happening, a confirmation of a sequel, I am very excited about it. Now, IGN, when they talked about this, of course, now I think that they're pretty irrelevant now. They were one of the groups who did basically talk about how, It's a gorgeous action game and that it has a lot of strengths, saying, oh, but its story and characters lack any substance. Some of its RPG elements are poorly implemented. There's dull side quests, all this different stuff, talking about how retracing your steps is bad, which is interesting because backtracking is in most games. It's not necessarily something that I would say is bad. But regardless, like, I think some people went into this with very critical lenses, especially video game reviewers, trying to find things that were wrong with it, trying to find things that they could criticize. And that's not what I think you should do when it comes to a video game that you are skeptical of or whatever. Like, I think that if you see a movie and you say, oh, that's not for me, I don't think what you should do is then go watch the movie and just like bring out a pad and a paper and pencil, and try to find things wrong with it. I don't really think that's reviewing. For me, reviewing these games is when you look at the game for obviously what it is, what it's trying to be, what it compares to in the genre and industry in general, all of these different things. I think that what you're trying to do is you're trying to gauge its strengths and weaknesses, but you're not like there to find its weaknesses. There's a difference. You go into something looking to find faults versus you go into something experiencing it and then listing what the positives and negatives are. I think a lot of games journalists, they were focusing on what they believed the negatives were ahead of launch, and there was this huge hate campaign against the game. Now, some of that was on Twitter, some of it was on all these other social media websites that are just full of garbage. So to see Shift Up, basically be this successful and point out that the game was breaking records, with Stellar Blade 1's, we're talking about 2, but 1's pre-orders on the Steam charts were basically breaking records. They were like number 2 up there, just killing it, even above a game like Doom: The Dark Ages. That's kind of crazy to me, that people were that invested in Stellar Blade. And yet before the launch, all you heard about it was that it was a gooner game. It wasn't going to have much content. It was just going to be window dressing, like it was going to be pretty girls and that's it. And yet it comes out and it has this depth to it. Its combat is interesting. I think the characters were fascinating. I think the world was beautiful. And I thought that the enemies were very, very imaginative. Kind of in the same way that I think Silent Hill enemies are imaginative, but different vein of that. I'm happy to see this. I think that they proved people wrong who wanted them to fail, who were kind of preying on their downfall. They did it in a classy way. They took the high road. They released their game. Their game was good. They kept giving free support to their game. People loved it. And then what ends up happening, it's so well received, it gets a PC port. The PC port starts basically breaking records on Steam charts before it's even out. And now there's Stellar Blade 2 coming. And it's all thanks to Shift Up doing an amazing job, Kim Hyung-tae being an artist first, and listening to fans of his work who wanted to, contribute to it. And of course, as well, people being willing to support it. And I am happy to see that, because usually nowadays, I feel like what I see are examples of people consuming and supporting things that are the exact opposite of this, that genuinely are created by people who hate the person buying it. So to see this get a win, I am personally very, very happy about. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe. I appreciate you very much. We do have our own store, cosmobunny.shop. You can use discount code DJAY123 over there for 10% off your first purchase of a coaster, keychain, tray, or more made from recycled paper. What we do is we take art from comics, manga, magazines. Basically, we take like the paper that has art on it, I should say, that's damaged, because these are damaged books that we get dirt cheap, free, or discounted. We buy in bulk, etc. And we turn that paper into new art and new pieces through transformative use. So I hope you'll check that out. Have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shui.